Welcome to the Munich Security Conference.
Hello everyone, I'm at the Munich Security Conference. The Munich Security Conference is the world's largest forum for debating international security policies. Every year, leaders from politics, international organizations, NGOs, academia, media come together to foster diplomatic solutions to the world's most pressing security challenges. The Munich Security Conference, in partnership with YouTube, have developed the MSC YouTube Studio with a mission to bring the conversation that is had here to a wider public. And I am honored to be one of the hosts. I will be taking a female empowerment and gender equality perspective to the conversations that I'll be having here today. Politics is one of the industries that shows the largest gap when it comes to gender equality and female representation. Of course, it's interesting to have a chat with female leaders who are key in shaping our secure future. So join me, and I hope you enjoy my week at the Munich Security Conference.
Let's go!
Hello and welcome to the Munich Security Conference. I'm honored to be here. It's not my industry. Why am I here? I am here because I am at the YouTube studio. The Munich Security Conference have a special partnership with YouTube so that we can pull in world leaders who are working in this space and interview them, get the behind the scenes on their thoughts and policies around international security. And the angle that I am taking this year is female empowerment and women's health. So for me, it's very interesting to be in conversation with the few women that happen to be in this space, to understand their challenges and to also understand what policies they are driving in their separate countries regarding international security. First things first, a little update. Got up this morning and the first thing I had to do was do my registration and pick up my badge. And then I had the pleasure of having coffee meeting with the CEO of Google, Mr. Sundar Pichai. After that, I made my way back here to the Bayernhof Munich Hotel. I need to get the name of this hotel right, but this is the venue where all of the conference is happening, and YouTube have a very fancy studio, which I'm going to give you a brief tour now, right before my interviews start back to back. And definitely going to bring you behind the scenes of all of the amazing interviews that I will be having. But let us do a quick tour of the YouTube studio. Okay, so you walk in, this is what you see. And this is pretty much the reception. These are all of the creators who were at the YouTube studio in Munich last year. Hi Wode, how are you doing? I guess the creators who come next year are gonna see my photos on here. And then we have more branding here, more people working, another big logo here, up the stairs, hello. Welcome to the YouTube studio at the Munich Security Conference. I'm Dr. Adanna Steinacker, and I am joined by an incredible woman, Honorable Baholo Kenewendo, who currently serves as the Special Advisor and Africa Director to the United Nations Climate Change High-Level Champions. So lovely to have you here, Honorable Kenewendo.
Thank you very much for having me.
Amazing. Let's talk about even trade and investment in Africa. How is climate change impacting that? Is there an overlap between both?
Climate policy or your domestic policy sometimes has an inadvertent implication and effect on external trade policy elsewhere. And it's important that there be the necessary consultation. And we've really been so consistent with that, the EU CBAM and any other climate policy, because there's been such a rapid increase of climate policy, should be fully consulted with all the necessary stakeholders, because the implications are vast. And it's not just the implications of trade, it's the implications on livelihoods, sustainable livelihoods, in particular because we are in this decade of rolling out SDGs.
What do you see is the biggest barriers to female leadership from a gender equality perspective in your sector?
Honestly, legislation that in one way or another limits your participation in society or economy will also limit your role in leadership.
Exactly.
If you can't own land, if you can't drive, if you can't work, if you can't inherit, no matter how small you think a piece of legislation is, any restriction that impacts a woman will impact their role in leadership.
Ala, it's so great to have you here today.
Thank you. I will go anywhere you tell me to. You already know that as a core rule of mine.
On a policy level, what are some of the strategies you believe are best for advocating for women's rights?
Ultimately, rights are about power. And I think women's economic power is something we need to actively invest in. You and I have spoken in the past about how being able to be accountable and capable of taking care of ourselves and our families has been a huge part of our identity. And that contribution is critically important to the way that we hold and shape power in the world. And I think that's true for women everywhere. And that does mean that there's an accountability to put policies in place to ensure that education, vocational training, resourcing for that is there. And so really policies and the political will around women's economic power is critical. In order to ensure a girl is educated or a woman has economic power, we have to ensure that they survive. They survive some of those really critical moments in life. Having a baby should not be the most dangerous day of your life. In 2024, for a woman to die in childbirth is absolutely ridiculous. And you add in the fact that we have the tools. We have them. A drape, a postpartum hemorrhage drape for when you are bleeding in birth that can save a woman's life costs 70 cents. 70 cents.
How do conflicts and crises exacerbate these gender inequalities? What are the measures that can be done to protect women and girls in these settings?
Well, and that's such an excellent question because they both exacerbate gender inequalities to a significant degree. All conflict, I mean, even the pandemic, because of the fact that you had a crisis situation meant that there was a lot more violence and things like gender-based violence. That really was a silent pandemic, I would argue. But they also provide a window of social opportunity. If you are able to shift social norms in that time, you can actually place them in policy and legislation in a way that you otherwise might not be able to.
Would you think that it's easier or more difficult to then shift social norms in situations of conflicts?
I think it should be easier.
It should be easier.
I think we could make it easier. I think the inability to do it effectively is less about our social norms and the conflict itself and more about the policies and who we think has value and voice in conflict. And if you look at peace processes, 90% fail within 5 years. 90%. And you have to imagine these take years to even be put into place. When you include women at the agenda-setting phase, when they sit around the table to say these are the things that are important to the community, it's 35% more likely to last 15 years.
Quite frankly, you are a symbol of female empowerment and a pioneer in political leadership. I find that very inspiring. Let's briefly touch on your journey here. What were the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome it?
I would say for me, my biggest challenges were, one, to be taken seriously. I ran for the first time when I was 27 years old, was elected at 27, showing that I'm a leader who believes in policy, who's been doing politics for much longer than people had known me. And as well as being the first Black woman to break that barrier was quite challenging as well.
Congratulations. I just have to mention that you are the first Black woman to be elected as a member of parliament to the City of London.
Absolutely. Actually, the first Black woman in politics in the City of London. And I feel like I still carry the burden of that. I still carry the barriers and they said you're breaking a glass ceiling, and when you're breaking a glass ceiling, the glass shatters, and a lot of those pieces get stuck with you. And one of the biggest things I don't like is people asking, how do you manage being a mom and a politician, to women? And yet men are also parents, and they're never asked those questions. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done to meaningfully include women in politics.
It was really very eye-opening understanding that sexual violence in conflict zones or during times of war is an intentional strategy to destabilize the community, to stigmatize women, for ethnic cleansing sometimes. What will be your message to governments that are here or international organizations? What are some of the key policies that you would recommend to make sure that women and girls are protected from sexual violence?
I think it's about the fact that sexual violence is not a less of crime. As you described, it's against all. And you're raping a whole family. It disturbs identities, nationalities. So we have a very high...
Generational stigmatization as well.
The trauma is going on. And I think it's very important to make clear it could be everyone. So we didn't accept that a war will happening near to us, not very far away from here. And everything what is happening has an effect of us. And I think a big message is listen to the people from the ground.
What year are we?
4.
Yay! Actually, no, Anna, put your name. I want your name to be visible here.
So the problem is I'm a doctor. My writing is very bad.
Go on. Do it. One letter at a time.
There we go.
That's it. Look at that. Wow. Yeah? See?
Thank you.
See? Not that bad?
Thank you.
Before coming here, when I checked the title, Rebel, and I was like, that's amazing to be called a rebel, to be called a badass, because in my country, women like me being called prostitute, being called the agent of CIA, the agent of MI6, the agent of Mossad. But women in my country, they have agency. They want to bring the regime down, and that's why we're being labeled with different ugly names. And that's why I'm really happy to be known as the rebel. And I want to actually echo the voice of my sisters here. Yes, we carry the wounds of dictatorship with us. We carry the scars of dictatorship, but we're not victims. Women of Iran, women of Belarus, women of Myanmar, women who are fighting against dictators, they are warriors. They are the true rebels. Showing your hair is a crime in Iran. You get killed for just feeling the wind in your hair, showing your hair. So, and I got the headscarf and I said that removing this headscarf, you get killed. I am representing this brave women of Iran practicing their civil disobedience. So I don't follow your dress code. I wore a t-shirt where I had the picture of women being blinded, losing their eyes. That time I had the picture of the woman. But this time, I have the woman here.
It's very lovely to have you here, Nima.
Thank you so much.
As a member of parliament in Tanzania, you have a successful track record of pushing both legislative and foreign policies in your country. So I'd like to start with your motivation for going into politics and also the motivation for specifically pushing initiatives to empower more women to come into politics. So what's that story like?
My process of getting into politics, all the way within the party and then for the parliamentary seats, I came to see how much work had been done prior on making the political landscape a bit more conducive for us.
Okay.
But then once I was inside, I came to see that more work also needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because if we want to get to 50-50, we need to make the environment even more conducive.
Yes.
But then we also need to address challenges that are currently blocking women from going in.
Did you have any role models that inspired you to run for a seat in parliament?
So to me, like my biggest drive was to be part of change. It's like I'm a natural change agent, to see what can I do to contribute towards change. So I have a number of people and women who inspire me, both within Tanzania and outside Tanzania.
Has there been any specific initiatives that motivate women?
Tanzania, we at a very unique stage right now whereby we have the only female president and head of state, Her Excellency President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan. And when she came into power, the first thing that she did is she wanted to review and strengthen our multipartyism democracy in Tanzania. So she formed a task force. And this presidential task force worked for like a year, analyzing different aspects of our multipartyism democracy. And through that, I saw a window that we can push for some of the election and political party acts to come into parliament so that they can be reviewed.
Yeah.
If they will be reviewed on other issues, then that can be a window for us to also use that opportunity to strengthen the gender perspective.
Okay, day 3 is over, and this is a wrap for the Munich Security Conference. I wanted to say a big shout out to the Munich Security Conference team in partnership with YouTube Studio and Google for having the mission to inform and to involve a broader audience in understanding the state of security of the world. And I think regardless of what industry you're in, security affects us all. The world should be safe for all of us, and I'm really delighted to be part of this platform that brings together leaders in politics, NGO, international organizations, media, academia, to really discuss security and how we move forward. So a big thank you again. It's been a lovely opportunity. I'm now heading to the train station, and I'll catch you later.